Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to be reacting to...
If you eat meat, you should know this.
This is not an anti-meat video. We've all heard the arguments against meat, and yet in the EU and US, only between 1 and 6% of people don't eat it. Meat is just too tasty, convenient and ingrained in our culture for most of us to consider giving it up. Also, food is personal and nobody likes to be morally lectured. At the same time, we love animals.
One
Most of
time
us
I was morally lectured. I thought it was so rude.
About eating meat?
have pets and believe in animal rights. Few things make the internet as angry as animal cruelty. Both are true. We love meat and we love
Have
animals.
you never been morally lectured?
I don't get into these discussions.
No, I didn't either. I was eating my food, and she's like, did you know they had to kill that bird for you to eat that bird? And I'm like, I'm going to eat it. This was in high school.
Yeah, they had to kill the bird. Yeah, that's how it works. Oh, this is funny.
Fortunately, most animals we eat live in truly horrible conditions. We don't torture them for fun, but because it makes meat just a little bit more incredibly cheap. If we all paid just a tad more, we could avoid most animal suffering, often just for a few pennies per meal.
That's cute, and we could pay more if we could afford it. So
I don't think people can afford it, especially if you're trying to feed mass amount of people.
that's my point. If we could afford it, then we would pay more for the cruelty-free. But I mean,
There's people who go hungry.
yeah, like we have people starving out there.
There's
Disclaimer,
still world
farm-
hunger.
Is complicated. Many farmers are genuinely trying to give their animals the best life possible, but they're trapped in a complex system with extreme market pressure to keep
When did
prices
this come out?
February 25th.
Oh, well,
Is
in
low.
Thanksgiving time, they said that they were raping the turkeys. You don't remember that?
I heard some, but it's still gross.
No two countries have the same standards, no two farms are equal, and solid data is often scarce. We've done our best to combine data from different regions and the prices you pay in the end.
For the purpose of this video, we assume all changes in production or wholesale costs transfer directly into retail prices without added surcharge. Okay.
To keep things simple, we're going to classify farming practices into 3 broad groups: decent, prisons, and torture camps. This is a bit sketchy, and you've probably seen many more categories in the supermarket, like organic or grass-fed. We'll come to that later. So, fellow omnivores, what would it cost us to avoid animal torture and still have our
I
fried
want
chicken?
to know what's the purpose of this video.
Well, all I know is the title was good enough to get me. So,
Chickens.
but based on the title, I thought it was gonna be a vegan propaganda video, so I had my stuff ready to counter. But
Really? You have stuff? What stuff? I thought you said you don't get into debates about these things. So how do you have stuff, huh?
I was saving all the debates for this video.
At any given time, there are about 26 billion chickens alive on Earth, as many as all other birds combined. Chickens seem dumb, but they're social, can communicate, solve problems, and feel empathy. And yet, we keep the vast majority in...
Yes, my mom, she fell in love with a chicken, and she refused to eat this chicken, and the chicken gave her so many eggs. So I can understand how people have strong connections to animals.
Egg chicken and meat chicken are different chickens, generally speaking. There are certain like that are bred for eggs. You don't kill those, you keep those for eggs.
Are you sure?
Yeah, that's how my grandparents do it.
I don't know. People thinking, is this a chicken that we can eat?
I mean,
Or
listen, if you need to eat, you need to eat. But generally speaking, there is the chicken that are raised for laying eggs.
Same torture. Let's start with eggs. Worldwide, about 90% of laying hens live in torture camps, crammed in extremely tight cages
Yeah, I guess they're called laying hens.
where they can barely move. They're unable to show any natural chicken behavior like nesting, roosting, foraging, or pecking at the ground, so they become extremely frustrated and end up hurting each other badly. To stop this, many farms clip their beaks. In the US and Europe, legal bans and consumer initiatives have improved the situation a lot in the last few years, but still, more than 50% of hens remain in cages. The insane thing is that this doesn't even save a lot of money. Let's say a dozen eggs costs you around 360 euros or dollars, 30 cents per egg. How much does it
that's expensive.
The A, that's expensive. B, right now is $5. So
cost to free the hens? The main alternative to cages are barn systems. Hens are still kept indoors, but have twice as much space and roam freely. Barns are prisons. Still not amazing, but so much better. In the EU, barns increase the consumer price by about 2 cents per egg. The somewhat decent alternative is free range, where hens are allowed outdoors, often with proper access to vegetation. In the EU, this increases the price by about 7 cents per egg. Housing aside, one of the cruelest practices is chick culling. Male chicks don't lay eggs, so they're killed right after birth, usually by gassing or grinding. This is a really widespread practice used for caged, barn, and even organic eggs.
By guessing?
I don't know what that is. No.
7 billion baby chickens are killed this way each year.
But why do you kill baby chicken and not just raise them and kill it for meat when they grow up into? I don't understand that. I don't understand what's the point of killing them babies and just throwing out that potential meat. I'm confused.
France and Germany have banned this, so many breeding eggs here are scanned early and only female birds hatch, which may have increased costs by only 2 to 5 cents per egg. So if you pay 85 cents more for a dozen eggs, you can make a difference between cereal.
So all the eggs that we get in the fridge, like from the groceries, are male eggs? It does make sense because there's this thing I remove from them and it's like called like the sperm.
I don't know. It's the first time I'm hearing all of this.
No, it makes sense. Everything's coming together.
Chicken torture and pretty decent chicken lives. And for another 60 cents, you can help end chick culling too. Chicken meat is a different story. Most meat chickens today are genetic freaks, bred to reach amazing weights incredibly fast. Their internal organs are under a huge amount of stress and they can't even walk properly because of their weight, which causes them a lot of pain for much of their lives. It's hard to give exact numbers here, but if farmers were to switch to breeds that grow slower and suffer far less, a serving of chicken breast that you buy at $1.50 would become 9 cents more expensive in the US. 90% of meat chickens in the EU live in prisons or torture camps. They're kept indoors in extremely crowded conditions with sometimes dozens of birds per square meter, often in the dark and with poor ventilation. So what if we moved them all to prisons? One EU study found that giving them 30% more space, perches, fresh...
It's sad, but you stopping to eat it is not going to change anything, so... What you can do is raise your own birds and eat them. That's... Give them good life. That's, that's something that's in your hands.
I mean, I think each individual can make the choice not to eat those things. I think that's a little bit like helping because then you probably go and inform others like, hey, you shouldn't be eating this.
And guess what? He still send it to the people that are starving. So somebody would eat it if not you.
Share and daylight would increase the price by another 13 cents per serving. Probably less than 5% of meat chickens live free range in relatively decent conditions. This meat is actually noticeably more expensive, double the price of regular chicken. But chicken is the cheapest meat, so depending on the cut, you'd pay 35 cents to €1 or $1 more for a serving of chicken that had a decent life. Pigs. Pigs are basically dogs. They're as intelligent, social and playful as our wolf buddies and make lovable pets. So pigs really feel how they live and arguably have it the worst of all animals we eat. Probably more than 90% of all pigs live in torture camps. They spend their entire lives indoors in extremely crowded spaces on concrete floors without straw or bedding. Since this is far from what they need, they get frustrated and often fight. Piglets have their tails docked to stop tail biting. Most males are castrated after birth.
There was one that was 7-21.
Oh.
So that their meat will taste better, often without pain relief to save time. Mothers are kept in crates, extremely tight metal straitjackets where they can't move at all. This leads to extreme suffering for the mother and for the piglets, which are held in a barren area separated by metal bars and taken away at just 3 weeks old. Imagine treating dogs like that.
I was just thinking
let's get to the
because
prison.
When there's animal cruelty like with dogs or cats, there's an uproar. Even prison time.
I mean, there's uproar with these too. I guess it doesn't get to this not to prison time, but there's those organizations. I must.
PETA.
Yeah, that's why we're doing this video, to kind of bring awareness to that.
Getting rid of crates would raise the cost of a €2 serving of pork by about 20 cents. Anesthesia for castration costs almost nothing, around 1 cent per kilogram of meat. And a study in Denmark found that giving pigs more straw and bedding material and 30% more space and other things that are more animal friendly would increase the price per serving by another 20 cents. This is still an awful life for an animal this intelligent, but obviously much better, for 40 cents more per serving. Going one level further and giving pigs outdoor access for at least 40% of their lives and 300 to 400% more space indoors would increase the price per serving by another 80 cents. Just over 1% of pigs in the EU live in these or similar conditions. We can't know if this is really okay for such a smart and social animal, but it starts resembling something decent. And all for about $1.2 or euros more per serving of.
But that's a lot. That's almost double the price, though. That's a big, significant increase. Like it sounds a little, oh, $1.2 or 1.2 euros. Yeah, but if you eat that every day, or like if you eat that every day for the family of four, that's becoming $5 a day, basically. So like 150 a month just on the pig. That's all you eat, just one serving of meat a day. Like that's a lot of money. Like this is not like the way they made it sound like in the intro. Oh, it's slightly for almost negligible cost. This is not negligible. This is a very, very big difference.
Of pig. Cows. Cows raised for meat have it the best because they usually spend about 2/3 of their lives outdoors, making their lives pretty good. If they were in the wild, it'd be basically the same thing but less safe. Their lives are far from perfect though, especially at the end. The vast majority of cows spend the last months of their short lives in finishing feedlots, either prisons or torture camps where they're fattened to reach their slaughter weight as fast as possible. Probably less than 5% of beef cattle in the US have lifelong access to outdoor pasture. And yet, a recent German study found that it only increases the price of beef by around 15%. The life quality of cows varies widely even within countries and regions, depending on the available land, climate and farming traditions. So it's really impossible to make more easy and cheap suggestions to make their lives better. Dairy cows do have it much worse. They're often kept indoors for most of the year and suffer pain, sole ulcers and lesions from standing on concrete. But once again, none of these things seem to be needed to have affordable milk. In Germany, outdoor pasture increases the price of the milk by about 10 cents per litre.
You know,
We could-
I would have thought in like at least Europe they would probably treat the animals better because they're so keen on like better ingredients,
Pizza?
better pizza. Pardon.
Yeah, I did not think it was the same treatment if the two continents. I really thought in Europe it would be better too, especially because we see like a lot. Oh, in Europe it's better, but
It's a lot of space, like land. I was like, why don't?
we have more space than they do. That is not.
Oh.
Yeah, we definitely have more space than they do. But yeah, it's kind of sad to see that it's the same thing over there too.
Go on with many other animals and farming practices, but the summary is clear. For the animals we eat the most, upgrading their living conditions from outright torture to somewhat decent may cost you about 15% more for beef and milk, 50% for eggs and pork, and 100% for chicken meat.
Are you really the last person to find out about
Wow.
the Skip Ads
It's a
Forever
big
button?
difference.
This is Pi, and if it sounds
That's-
familiar to you,
that's
it's
a
probably
big
because you've seen their ads.
The meat of the issue.
Like the beef price, the 15%, okay, maybe that's, some people can afford that, but like 50%, 100%, these are like very, very big increases.
Opinion part. Meat has gotten so cheap that we have to torture animals to keep the prices insanely low. This really is all there is to it. Food in developed countries is the cheapest it's been in history. In the US, the largest meat consumer
I don't know about that. Cheapest it's been.
One time we saw chicken for a really good price. We're like,
I don't think it's the cheapest.
in the world, an average person spends $337 a month on food, $88 on meat, eggs and dairy. If these became an average 50% more expensive, that would increase the monthly expenditure on food by about $43. This may sound like a lot, but relative to income, this only means
$43 per person. So for a family of four, that's $172. It's just a car payment. Can be a car payment. So, for some people,
a car payment? What car?
there's car payments for like $170, like a Toyota Corolla or something. So, okay, if not a car payment, it can be a
What?
cable bill.
Cable.
Yeah. Cable bill, electricity bill. Like that's a bill.
That's like a bill to go out for dinner for 3 people, maybe.
Well, it depends where you go, but like I'm just saying, like in terms of essentials, like we're talking like like regular people that don't go out all the time. I'm just saying like $172 a month for a family, that's a bill. Like if it's electricity, electricity for family four would probably be a little bit more because there's more people, more light needed, whatever.
Turn that off.
Okay. Uh, but let's say cable bill. It can be phone. It can be a phone bill. So like, like that's a lot of money. Like the video makes it sound like it's not, but it is.
Paying as much for food as US consumers did in 1987. In Germany, the average person
Nah, that is not true at all. Like food bills have already increased a lot since COVID. So this is completely not true. I don't
I
know.
think it's like taking the average.
Okay, maybe average may be the same, but people are starting to use worse quality.
Yeah, some people have to move to generic.
Yeah, people instead of buying brand names, they're buying generic. So the price of good, if it is the same, which I'm having a hard time to believe, but if it is, they are not eating the same exact product that they used to. Like they definitely changed what they eat to keep the amount the same.
spends about €70 a month on meat, eggs and dairy. If we increased prices by 50% on average to make the lives of these animals better in a really meaningful way, this would rise by about €35 to about €100. If this still sounds too expensive, it may be because around 20% of all meat people buy is simply thrown away. Meat got so cheap that we often don't eat it before it goes bad. It's no longer valuable. Okay, so if you go shopping, what can you do? It can feel like you can't do anything as an individual consumer, but this is not true. The market follows demand. So if you don't want to buy torture meat, look at the labels on holding conditions. If there is none, it is torture meat for sure. If there is, well, it's complicated. It's often unclear what different labels mean, if they're strictly enforced or legally binding. Some are
There's a
great,
lot of
others
thinking.
whitewashing. And we haven't talked about the most expensive meat so far, organic meat. You've
You
probably
didn't
noticed
even
that
talk
many
about fish. You know, when they talk about meat, they don't include fish. I don't know why.
Yeah, this is just about like animals meat.
price estimates we've given here don't quite match your experience in the supermarket. This is in part because some retailers consider ethical products luxury goods and charge an even higher price, and also because many labels like organic, natural, ecological, bio, or the worst of all, biodynamic, often contain a lot of extras or pseudoscience that have nothing to do with animal welfare. Many, but not all of these labels include some of the best practices mentioned before, but not necessarily all. Organic brands often include, for a lack of a better word, stupid measures, like forbidding GMO feed. As we covered in another video, banning GMOs doesn't do
I had one time I wrote a paper and I included the word stupid, and the professor said knocked down my grade significantly. She's like, don't use stupid in your writings. It makes you not credible. So I always have that in my mind when I write papers. Now to see him say stupid in his presentation, I don't know. I look him sideways too.
anything good for you or the animals. It just makes your food more expensive and seem more natural, while you are consuming unnatural animal breeds, living a deeply unnatural life. Unfortunately, the label situation in many countries is extremely confusing, often on purpose. All too often, we don't know what we're really buying. So, grudgingly, if you can afford it and want at least a high chance of torture-free meat, go for the label. If you can afford it, buy organic. If you can afford it and have time, research local farms and get your meat from a place you've seen yourself. There's one exception too good not to mention.
Obviously, ideally, you would grow your meat yourself, like the chickens, the pigs, if you have the land, the time,
And the community, because sometimes you could have one person who does this, another person does this, and they do a trade.
Yeah, like back that's how it used to be back in the day. Yeah, so that's ideal, but in a city that's just not feasible. So you kind of have to go in the store.
Mussels. They suck up carbon and filter water, making coastlines cleaner. Calling mussels dumb is giving them too much credit. With no central nervous system and probably no thoughts or pain, they're basically moss. Really, everyone should eat more mussels. Okay, let's wrap up. You don't need to be vegan to think the current situation is unacceptable. The conditions of most animals we eat are hard to stomach and could all be avoided if we paid as much for meat as our parents did. Things are slowly getting better, at least in the West. Consumers can push the industry in the right direction if we bite the bullet and pay more.
In
you
Europe, do
can't
you guys have this thing where, oh, buy organic or buy this? Or is it assumed like, oh, all the stuff is okay?
You asking me?
Because to me, I wouldn't think like in Europe you guys have all these labelings like here, because it's very consumeristic society here where they push okay organic, GMO free, this free. I just think that in Europe the foods already are like advertised to not have these additives already, so I wouldn't think they would take the next step to care what products they're necessarily purchasing from.
Well, so no, I haven't been in a long time, so I don't know for sure how it is now. But I know like
It was never a big deal for your parents to buy organic.
it was like, for example, strawberries. We only buy it in season because out of season they imported like from other countries, so we didn't want that. We only wanted here like in the fresh market that people how people grow it. So it's the same principle. I think nowadays it's probably the same thing. Just put the labels too. I don't know.
True.
For this, maybe eat a bit less meat. Don't throw meat away. Maybe avoid the worst torture meat like pork, at least sometimes. And push for legislation that bans the most horrific practices.
I think eating less meat is not a bad idea. I think people should eat meat, but I don't think they should like indulge in meat too much. We don't eat a lot of meat. We do eat, but not like a lot.
We can help make the lives of billions of animals dramatically better. It really is that simple.
I'm saying I kind of want a burger.
IRS e-file is now open.
I think that's it. I think the rest is like some sort of commercial.
Guys, of course, let us know your thoughts. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Join the Discord. And as always, share as much kindness as possible. Bye.